Literally two faces.
Yeah, I know him through the state. He's very good.
Good evening and welcome to the January 5th Scarborough Town Council meeting. Good evening again, and welcome to the January 5th Town Council meeting. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Counselor Alquist.
Here.
Counselor Holbrook.
Here.
Counselor Sullivan.
Here.
Counselor DeAndrea.
Here.
Counselor Rancourt.
Here.
Counsel Chair Roy.
Here. Before we go to item number 4, I have some business to take care of that we ran out of time at the last meeting for, but we would basically like to recognize the person who was the chairperson last year. So for Carol Rancourt, in appreciation of your dedicated leadership as the Scarborough Town Council Chair from November 09 to November 10. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, all. It was a pleasure serving.
Okay. Before we begin, just again, if you've got an agenda, make sure that you've read the back. I misquoted times for the public hearing to some folks that I had spoke with, and I apologize for that. The public hearing part is still 3 minutes. Just look at the decorum section. No applause. Speak to the issue, not to, a person. Remember that each counselor up here is but one vote. So that's the important thing. Each only has one vote. So identifying an individual counselor, when we get together to discuss it, we'll go back and forth on lots of items. So stay to the issue, be brief, concise, and we're having problems with our microphone system, and there are a couple speakers down there where that TV is set up, and we've got the portable mic up at the podium. Really important that you take the mic out of the holder and speak into the mic so that there will be good volume, so that everybody can hear what you're saying, and certainly so it can be picked up for retelevising over our cable network. So with that, general public comments. And if you would queue up, and as we move along, when we get to the public hearing, I will have both public hearing items brought forward at the same time, and we'll do the public hearing on all of, on both issues at that point. Name and address, please.
Thank you, Councilor Roy. This is Suzanne Foley Ferguson, 331 Black Point Road. I'm taking the opportunity to use this general comment to ask some questions of clarifications, and we hope that maybe you could answer them before the public hearing. I don't know if you can, but because there's still a lot of confusion out there about what these amendments do, and even when I talked to certain counselors, they weren't sure of it. And the two issues, the two issues that I'm concerned that people don't understand is the drop-off zone that's 90 feet long on Bayview. It reads in the ordinance under number 2, Roman numeral number 2, parking restrictions. It reads, upon any of the public streets or highways. And then the amendment says a 5-minute drop-off zone on the ocean side of Bayview only. Some folks were taking that to mean that is the only drop-off zone in the entire beach community. So if that's the case, it definitely makes your comments quite different, because people right now drop off at Morning Street, dead end, Vesper Street, dead end, Shipwreck, and they drop off down at the east end. But right now it reads upon any of the public streets, and then it says drop off only on Bayview. So it may just be a technicality. And then the other question, people are still being very confused with winter versus summer. And when people are making comments, and they're making comments about summer, they're really referring to the winter comments. So those are the two issues. One of the changes I would recommend that you guys do is separate, instead of having it parking restrictions, it should say parking regulations. And that, because right now you have your year-round parking amendment, parking year-round shall be allowed, but it's under the heading of summer parking, April 1st to October 1st. That amendment is under the summer, even though it's parking year-round. So that's why people are getting confused. I think it's the structure of the ordinance. That's my comment. Thanks.
Thank you.
Charlie Callahan, 14 Woodrock Drive, also Ashton Street, Higgins Beach. I'll be brief so my voice won't give out. Anyway, first of all, my vintage at Higgins Beach goes back some 40 years. First renting, and I bought property about 33 years ago. Anyway, in my time there, I can't remember any summertime parking allowed on the streets. I may be wrong, but since I've been coming there, so this new innovation of allowing the spaces on Bayview during the summer months is new to me and all residents. Secondly, I think that if you want to try to get some continuity between the beach areas in town at Pine Point, Ferry Beach, and Trout's Neck, there's seasonal restricted parking. But at Pine Point, my recollection is Pillsbury Drive, which is analogous kind of to Bayview at Higgins, has no parking anytime. And I'm not sure how that happened, but that's been the way for years. Secondly, the street leading into Ferry Beach has no parking anytime. And of course, Black Point Road throughout Prout's Neck has no parking anytime. So the seasonal parking seems to me should still be restricted at Higgins Beach and not allow any parking on the streets during the summer months. And that places an undue burden on Chief Moulton and his bicycle patrols, and particularly trying to maintain the 1 hour parking during the summer months on that stretch between Pearl and Morning Street. So those are my comments, and I'd recommend that you not initiate any on-street parking during the summer months, particularly.
Thank you, Mr. Callahan.
I'm Wayne Lopez, and I live at 35 Morning Street. First, I'd like to thank all you folks for serving on the council. It's something I would never, ever think of doing. I appreciate there are people who are willing to do it. I measured my street last night. It is 16 feet, approximately. I also measured down on Bayview, the narrowest portion where we've made a beautiful walkway and all down there, but the narrowest portion where it comes out is exactly 16 feet too. I wouldn't think that you would ever allow parking there. People have stopped there, as we all know, that drive around this, because we have to drive around that way to get to our house. It's one way. I could go down further, I guess, and come up. But generally you drive down
Bring the mic down a little bit.
bring it down?
There we go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Generally, you drive right down Ocean Avenue and go in our way. So when someone does stop there, it's very hard to get by. It's very, very close. That would be the same way on our street. Now, I can't speak for any of the other streets. I'm just speaking for our street. And the wintertime, if you allow parking on that, when it does snow, and it does occasionally snow at Higgins Beach, and we do have snowbanks, it's even narrower. And the only time that you can really drive comfortably down that street when someone is parked on the street is when they're half on the lawn. That's just the way it is. So that street's just too narrow to allow parking. Now, I have looked around the beach and tried to see areas where it was safe to have parking, because there are some vehicles, of course, that are larger than cars. And that's very important that we get the school buses and the fire vehicles and the emergency vehicles allowed to get by. The only two places that I could see on Ocean Avenue, on the part that's one way, and on, of course, the part we've talked about on Bayview that's down past Pearl, I believe. And those are the only two places that I see that are wide enough to safely have parking in the wintertime. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Douglas Lund Yates, 26 Fowler Farm Road. I would like to hand in the fourth batch of signatures. This petition is for people who want to see more on-street parking and for the parking to be the same as the other Scarborough beaches. I'll hand this in after I've stopped speaking. I'm generally pleased with the new amendments that were proposed, but still have some concerns. I'm not in favour of the drop-off zone being continued into the off-season. I don't think that would work. It's valuable real estate right at the front of the, right next to the ocean there. 90 feet is still quite a long distance, and I just think the drop-off zone is just going to be too big, and to continue it into the off-season is kind of crazy. I would like to see the off-season defined the same as other Scarborough beaches, which is the same as what the petition is saying. I don't think 1 hour parking is long enough for people to truly enjoy the beach. I think it should be extended to a longer period than that. I'm also concerned at the slow erosion of the on-street parking that seems to happen every few years for whatever reason. If we keep compromising, then eventually we'll compromise each time, and eventually we'll have no on-street parking at all. So that is a concern of mine. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Erwin Rupert. I live at 15 Old Neck Road here in Scarborough. I've been living there 12 years, and I've paid over $40,000 in property taxes during that time. I'm here because this is my first time here at the town council.
You need to hold the mic up to your mouth, if you would, please. You need to hold it.
Okay, I'll just, how about this?
Or
Is that
you
better?
can- yeah.
Okay, thank you. This is my first time doing a town council meeting, and I'm here because I take my dogs for walks on Higgins Beach. I have been doing that for 12 years. I was there this evening. There was a beautiful sunset with a beautiful little sliver of a crescent moon out there. It's a great place to take my dogs, but I can't get there. I live, 2.5 miles away. I can't get there without driving. And, I'm used to being discriminated against as a dog owner, here in the town of Scarborough. I saw you use this plover piping, or whatever kind of bird it was.
Piping plovers.
Yes, some kind of excuse, to take away the rights of dog owners in the past, to limit us. Thankfully, you didn't totally eliminate our rights to take dogs for walks in different places. You made an accommodation for us. And that's what I think is, important in being good neighbors, is that we accommodate other people that are different from us. And when I see these surfers down there, these surfers are different than me. There's no way I would ever put on a wetsuit and go out into the water in the middle of the winter. These people are crazy. But they're not many of them are from here in Scarborough. Some are, most are from out of town somewhere. But still, they're our neighbors, and we need to respect them. And that means accommodating them, to give them the right to enjoy the resources that are out there. And so, because of that, I'm opposed to any amendment to the parking. You've already restricted the parking enough, and I can see now you're already on the way to doing the same thing you did to dogs. Restricting our rights to have access to the beaches with our dogs. Now you're going to restrict the rights of people to have access to the beaches, that want to do the surfing. They don't bother anybody. So yeah, they're cold. They want to get out of their wetsuits when they get out of the water. I've seen them there, hundreds of times. They're okay. So they undress. Big deal. Big deal. You know how many people are out there watching them? Nobody. Maybe if you took the webcam and shined it down on where the cars are, maybe you would see something. But they're not really bothering anybody. One person might walk by and see something that, they don't like. Well, probably they don't like the kind of person as opposed to what the person is doing. And so I'm here to express my discontent with any amending of parking. And in fact, I believe as a resident, 2 years ago, you spent $500,000 of the town money to fix the seawall there. Who benefited from the new seawall? The residents there. So the value of their property doesn't go down. Now they have a nice, safe seawall. You don't have to worry about that road eroding, that road being cut off and having to, their values go down. Well, now I'm going to, you made me pay for part of that. And now, okay, now you're going to say I can't even have the right to drive my car over there and park and take my dog for a walk? Well, I can do it for an hour. Okay, I mean, either, an hour now, but, how about the next time somebody complains? Somebody complains because they saw something that they didn't like. Personally, I believe that the public has a right to access to the beach. And as I was looking through the statutes just in 30 minutes before I came here, going online,
Your time, try to wrap up.
Okay, one thing. So, you know, of course, we know the ordinance can't, you know, the state has, here's what I want you to take notice of. Title 38, Section 1801, which is the findings and declarations of coastal management policies. You know, and that is that the legislature finds that the Maine coast is an asset of immeasurable value to the people of the state. And there is a state interest in the effective management of the coast resources. And the legislature declares that the well-being of the citizens of the state depends on striking a carefully considered and well-reasoned balance among the competing uses of the state coastal areas. And then one last thing and I'm finished, and that is, you know, the rights that we all have to the intertidal lands of the state. And that's called the public trust. There's the intertidal lands of the state are impressed with a public trust. The public trust encompasses those uses of intertidal land essential to the health and welfare of the Maine people, including use as a footway between points along the shore and use for recreational purposes. These recreational uses are among the most important to the Maine people today. And finally, to conclude, one more quote from the state legislature.
You're over 4 minutes. We've
Okay, I'll
got
just
a long
remind
way
you
to
that
go.
people have been using that since the old Kings Highway, Higgins Beach. People have been using that access, and you cut off our access now, you know, de facto, by not letting me park there. You know, I would be happy to be a plaintiff in any lawsuit against the town that anybody may want to bring, you know, to ensure that the right of the people to the access of the state intertidal lands is, you know, continues. Thank you.
I would remind everybody to make sure that you address the council, not the audience.
Hi, my name is Megan Lund Yates. I live at 26 Fowler Farm Road in Scarborough. I have attended several of the council meetings. I've been following the articles in the newspaper. I also walk my dog almost daily at Higgins Beach. I've yet to hear or see any compelling reason for limiting on-street parking in the off-season at Higgins Beach. Pedestrian safety, traffic safety, and emergency vehicle access concerns are unfounded, as per Police Chief Moulton in the December 15th meeting. With the Scarborough population growing every year, I ask the councilors to seek additional on-street parking as needed and expand parking as opportunities arise. The parking lot ownership should be used to complement on-street parking in the off-season, not restrict it. I noticed that after this last snowstorm, it took a week and a half for the parking lot to be plowed. I would like to see the parking lot be plowed in a more timely manner. I also ask that you extend the off-season on-street parking to September 15th to May 1st, as originally proposed by the Ordinance Committee. I would like to thank the councilors for their time, their hard work, and effort to maintain beach access for everyone.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kaylee Day. I am a property owner at 17 Kelly Lane.
Could you repeat the name, please?
Kaylee Day. I have been at Higgins Beach since I was born, and safety is my main concern with this new arrangement. Last summer, my grandmother broke her arm down at Higgins Beach. We were down on Morning Street, and it took the ambulance close to 3 minutes to get from the end of Ocean Avenue to get to Morning Street, which is, like you said, 90 feet, not very far at all. That was very, very long time. And if this were a heart attack person happening on the beach or a child drowning, it could be a very, very serious problem. I'm a surfer, so I understand the whole parking. Everybody wants to surf down there. Everyone wants to hang out at the beach. I'm just afraid for everyone's safety that if there's too many cars around, then something awful could happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Sean Sullivan. I live at 377 Broadway in South Portland. I'm not a resident of this town. I understand that might make the council groan a little bit, but you know, I want to remind the council that it's not just Scarborough citizens who are helping support, you know, on the tax roll essentially by supporting local businesses. I come from South Portland to surf at Higgins Beach and to recreate at Higgins Beach. And while I'm there, I stop at markets, I fill up my gas tank, and there I do my part to support the town of Scarborough. And it's important to remember that it's not just the bubble. So with that said, I want to first thank the town council for taking this issue on. I know it's not an easy one, and I appreciate the effort you are taking to look into this issue. I also thank them for purchasing the parking lot. That's a great step in the right direction, and I'm encouraged by that fact, and I'm hoping that we can continue down that road to ensure continued public access at Higgins Beach. I think you'll notice here that you haven't heard anybody from outside the Higgins Beach community speak in support of parking restrictions. And I think that's a really important note, because really the truth of it is the majority whom, with all respect, you are elected to represent does not support this. And I think that's an important thing to remember. You can feel confident knowing that if you want to ensure public access to Higgins Beach and you want to vote with that, that you're representing the majority you are elected to represent. So I'd like to say, in brief, I don't support the 1-hour parking thing. I think it's too short and it doesn't allow me enough time to surf and to recreate the beach as I would like to. I don't support the drop-off zone. I think it's going to be difficult to maintain, difficult to manage, and it's going to cost the taxpayer a lot of dollars if we have somebody there constantly enforcing it. Again, I agree, the public has a right to access this beach, and I'm concerned with the continued erosion of access to Higgins Beach, as we've already lost some spots, and I'm concerned we're going to lose a few more. So, in conclusion, I support extending the current parking things, the current parking regulations to the regulations that Scarborough Town Beach has, Scarborough State Park, in the longer period of time. I posit that the public has already compromised on this issue, and that there are already more restrictions on Higgins Beach than any beach in Scarborough. As far as safety is concerned, I take that woman's last point, but as we've heard from the police chief, that isn't necessarily the case, and I posit that if maybe her grandmother was able to park at the beach, she wouldn't have to walk, and that's going to make it, from the lot, that's going to make it a much safer situation. So again, thank you for taking on this issue, and I hope you'll continue to support public access at Higgins Beach.
Thank you, Cheryl. Huh? Yeah, there are some seats up front. We don't bite much.
Let's go, keep it.
Okay, is that it for general public comments? We got plenty
am-
more time. We got the 2 public hearing things, and that will go until everybody gets a chance, so.
Good evening. My name is Mark Pauly. I live at 15 Kelly Lane.
Mark,
My 15 Kelly Lane, Mark Pauly.
okay.
My wife's family, former owners of the parking lot, so we certainly in favor of public access to the beach. I have a couple of points. One is, it would seem to me that if people are going to be allowed to park down there for an hour, that someone's going to have to figure that out as to when the hour stops and when the hour begins for 24 cars. And if you bought the parking lot, you make an investment in the parking lot, and my assumption is you're going to charge people to park at the parking lot, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't see the reasoning for having the parking lots down by the parking spaces free, and then have to monitor that and have to decide who's been there an hour and send someone out at 2 a.m. to make sure the place is cleaned up by then. It seems to be we tend to do things for all the right reasons and leave out the administrative pieces of this as to what it's going to take to operate this. Second thing is, I've gone down there for many, many years. And almost every summer, if you look at these spaces here, some kid or some dog pops out between there, and you have no place to go. I either can go on the lawn and hit someone walking on the other way, or I can really put on my brakes and possibly injure someone in my car. Now, I've put on my brakes hard a few times, and none of that has happened. But because none of it's happened doesn't mean that it'll never happen. And I strongly suspect it's only going to be a matter of time in the summertime when we ramp up and consider all the walk-in traffic from the parking lot. The walk-in traffic from the beach, people going back to the parking lot, and people going through those cars, and not to think someone's going to go down there and be looking at the water and not hit somebody. It's almost happened to me, but almost doesn't count, I know, but I don't want to get to the point where we're here because it did happen. So I don't have any real opinion in terms of whether or not people should be able to park there or not. I think we have a public parking lot to do that, but if you're going to park there, fine. I think perhaps a recommendation would be to make that parking eligible by beach pass. So that you know everybody bought a beach pass that really is committed to going to the beach, help cover some of your costs to monitor who comes when and who leaves when and who's there at 2 a.m. in the morning. and for any potential insurance for any type of accident that happens down there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Hello, my name's Dan Smith, and I'm a Scarborough resident. I went to the Scarborough schools and currently living in Phillips Street, on Phillips Street, behind the high school. I've been a resident in Scarborough since 1976. My parents still live on Gunstock Road in Scarborough and Pleasant Hill Road. When I was 16 years old, I was getting dropped off by my parents to swim for the day. And in my 20s, I was being dropped off to go fishing in the Spurwink River mouth. Still to this day, I have to get dropped off to go fishing because there's no parking. I'm married to the mother of 3 children, with my oldest being 27. I have not once used the beach for recreation with any of my family members because there is no parking. I came here hoping today to get Higgins Beach community to share the beach that we all have come to love. But with that being said, we are simply asking you to give us parking spaces. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
I'm Priscilla Rising, and I live at 15 Shipwreck Road at Higgins Beach. And I am speaking to you with this meeting agenda in mind, that we are speaking about April 1st through October 1st. Is that correct? Is that what we're dealing with tonight?
It's general comment.
Yeah.
Parking?
This is just the general comment section.
Oh,
When we
okay.
get to the other,
Okay,
it's going to be
okay.
specific to those two.
Anyway, I am speaking to oppose any on-street parking between April 1st and October 1st, except for handicapped parking. During the above times, April 1st to October 1st, on the great days at the beach, I take my life in my hands driving down Ocean Avenue and Bayview Avenue Extension to reach my cottage at the end of the beach. Pedestrians, including adults and kids, are walking on both sides of Ocean Avenue, often out into the road, which, by the way, is one way toward the beach. This makes it hard to negotiate. Then at the ocean front, I must try to negotiate around cars with all doors open, unloading their stuff, and at that narrow opening, then trying to dodge people walking on both sides of the street, as well as people flowing down the side streets across Bayview Avenue to get to the beach. And then add to that the kids darting out between cars, if you can't see them, and you can't, and that only adds to the danger. I've been to Scarborough Beach, I've been to Ferry Beach, I've been to Pine Point Beach, and there is no on-street parking, May 1st to October 1st. And they have very nice parking lots with facilities there. I feel that the town has purchased a parking lot at the beach, and that is providing us with beach access. I walk my dog most every day and in the evenings down Shipwreck, down Bayview, up Hooten, either all the way across Greenwood or back down Ocean Avenue. And I honestly don't see why dog walkers can't park in the parking lot and walk down that length. And I feel the same way about the surfers. And I just wanted to close with something that I read in the town report of 2008. This is described general information regarding beaches in Scarborough. A sandy beach located within Higgins Beach is a sandy beach located within a quaint residential neighborhood dating from the late 1800s. Higgins Beach is a small, private, sandy beach with public access to it. I feel that Higgins Beach is not, after going to these other beaches, it is so small. They have enormous parking lots everywhere else, and I can see there's an enormous amount of space to walk and enjoy the beach, but Higgins Beach is kind of small.
We're over the three.
Okay. So I would just like to close by saying I don't feel that Higgins Beach is, I think we have the parking lot. That's the best access that we can do.
Thank you.
Hi there. My name is Regina Day. My family, Brian and our 2 children, live at 3 Schooner Road in Scarborough. We also own property at 19 Kelly Lane, 17 Kelly Lane, and 24 Ocean Avenue. I'd like to say that the first time that I spoke before the Scarborough Town Council was back in the 60s to support the extension of the current surfing area that we had back in those days. And my family has enjoyed surfing, enjoyed the beach for many years. We're in full support of public enjoyment and public access of the beach. We enjoy it ourselves. We spend very lot of time there walking and surfing and playing and riding our bicycles and such. We don't feel that any additional on-street parking, especially in the summertime, is a safe concept for the area. We do live at Kelly Lane, which is the furthest, one of the furthest outposts of walking distance, almost twice as far as walking from the new lot. We enjoy the safety of the new sidewalk that the town invested in. We think that makes some good sense. But we don't think that having any more vehicle traffic on the beach is a safe idea. And again, not to limit the access to the beach itself, just to keep those cars up off where all of the pedestrians are. It is a walking neighborhood. If anybody has ever seen the drop-off zone over at Scarborough Middle School, you can imagine what it's like down there in front on Bayview with cars dropping off and picking up gear, equipment. So if the car in front isn't ready to move out, the car behind goes out and around. So if you can envision the middle school drop-off in the morning with wagons, with carriages, with bicycles and pedestrians, that's what I would anticipate seeing down at Bayview. My family and I are absolutely not looking to deny folks access to Higgins Beach, but we just think that it needs to be done in a safer manner, possibly having some kind of a shuttle system from a bigger parking lot if the parking lot that the town purchased isn't viable, something ecologically sound. I'm afraid that what's going to happen with these free spaces, instead of coming down Ocean and directing the vehicular traffic into the parking lot, they're going to be cruising about looking for the free spaces, and it's just not a safe concept in our opinion. Thank you very much for your work.
Thank you, Regina.
Hi, my name is Holly Connolly. I live at 26 Pearl Street. I've been a Higgins Beach
Could you
resident.
repeat the last name?
Connolly, Holly Connolly.
Thank you.
I've lived out at Higgins since 1987, and I just have several comments. I am a mother that raised my daughter out at Higgins, so I've seen traffic there for a number of years. I myself was almost struck by a car this summer. It literally grazed me as it went by me walking up from the beach on Pearl Street. And I have 2 other people that were with me, some of them small children. Pearl Street is a very narrow street, as are all of the exiting side streets at Higgins. The issue about parking on Bayview, I can appreciate intellectually people wanting proximity to the beach. I myself, sometimes living out there, want to drive down there, park, and go on the beach because it's easy and it's quick. But what I will say, I'm at the beach a lot all summer, and I am frightened to think with the kids on skateboards, tricycles. It isn't even just older kids on bicycles. There are little kids on tricycles with like 1 dad and 4 kids like ducks trailing behind. You've got cars coming behind them. if you have kids on bikes and skateboards, and you have a row of parked cars with people getting in, opening doors, leaving, parking, it's going to push the bicycle and the tricycles and the rollerblades out towards the travel lane. And I can tell you, without a lane of parked cars, it's already tricky traveling in the summer on Bayview. I totally agree with the woman that just spoke. I'm a resident, and I've almost hit people. You know, parents can't keep track of all the kids when they're on bikes, and there's 4 or 5 kids. So I feel two ways. I appreciate people wanting to be close to the beach, getting out of their car, walking right down to the beach. But I, as a mother, feel that safety and the children are primary. And in the summer, I will tell you, my concern is there's going to be somebody hit down there with people exiting, parking, car doors opening. In terms of the winter parking, I find the streets very narrow. I find them more narrow since we did the drainage. I think the drainage was a great project. We don't have flooding, but it narrowed the streets. In the winter, the snowplow isn't even going to get by. The fire trucks aren't going to get by. When the snowplow comes up Pearl Street, he has to stop in the street, honk until people come out of their house because he can't get by them. So I don't know if it extends to side streets, but the streets are narrow, so the problem in the winter is snow, and it's narrow. And you think of an emergency vehicle like a fire truck with somebody having a heart attack in the middle of the night. They're not going to park and blow their horn so they can get to somebody. But those are just my comments as a resident, and I go with Gina Day. I want as many people. I'm married to a surfer. I have a child. I'm not trying to exclude people from access to the beach, which personally, I think that's an unfair comment. We have bought a parking lot. There's access to the beach. Is there enough access? That's another issue. But there is access to the beach, and safety's number one, for me anyway. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Lily.
Good evening. My name is Jim Reekle. I'm a Higgins Beach property owner and year-round resident at 6 Morning Street. I'm a strong advocate of off-season on-street parking, which facilitates public access to the beach. There are just 2 points I'd like to make. First, about a month ago, Councilman Sullivan wisely asked about the enforceability of off-season parking restrictions. During the summer, a dedicated person is at the beach able to routinely enforce parking ordinances. Chief Moulton advises this cannot be done in the winter, bringing into question the wisdom of instituting such restrictions. Second, I would like to present a couple of excerpts from Scarborough's comprehensive plan. In 1994, it stated, in somewhat broken English, the town should, at Higgins Beach, not allow loss by attrition of the existing minimal parking spaces available to the public, and should expand public parking if opportunities arise. And the town should maintain its rights to traditional points of access and seek to acquire additional access as opportunities arise. In 2006, an update to the comprehensive plan stated, the town should annually review all existing access points and facilities so as to maintain and protect public access. The council has a tough task in resolving this contentious issue. I urge you to be aware of enforceability and sensitive to the guidelines and intent of the comprehensive plan when formulating policies that affect both public parking and beach access. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Jim.
Hello. My name's Angelo Sioka. I'm the owner of 12 Vesper, one of the properties most affected by this proposal. First off, I believe that by allowing summer parking along Bayside, where, I don't have my glasses with me, so this is hard to read. Sorry about that. We are causing a potential safety hazard, which other people have hit on here, to the hundreds of children who enjoy walking, skateboarding, riding bikes, etc., along Bayview every day during the summer. I put down here, is anyone thinking about that? But obviously they are. The kids, by their nature, will be walking and running in between the parked cars and sometimes out into the street, could be a major problem, or will be a major problem once a child is hit, and someone will be at blame for that, and probably not the person driving the car, possibly not the person driving the car, but the people who implement this law. Also, if parking would be allowed on this stretch of road after dark during the summer, we'll be inviting both of-age and underage beach partying and drinking in the evening. Easy access to the beach after dark will cause problems, and these problems will be the Higgins Beach residents' problems, not anyone else's. So I don't know if anyone's touched on that before, but if you allow parking after dark there, people are going to park their cars, have access to the beach, and we all know what, both young and old people will be doing if that's allowed. Wasn't meant to be funny, but. So I'm all for everyone enjoying the beach. I've only owned this property for 2 years, but in those 2 years, I've invited all of my friends, beach walkers, sun worshipers, and surfers, to park on my property. So I'm helping with any parking issues down there. And my people in this room could probably attest that there's plenty of cars parked on that property during the summertime and also in the wintertime. But to have unlimited parking all day and night, all day and most of the night outside of my windows at the beach is just plain wrong. You're giving my rights to peaceful enjoyment of my property away by allowing people to park there at nighttime. And I'm the one footing the tax bill. So the town parking lot should be used to its maximum potential, and on-street parking severely limited in the summertime. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other general comments? Okay. Minutes of the December 15th, 2010 regular meeting? Oh, we have another one? Okay.
Good evening. I'm Rick Griffin, 2 Ridgeway Road and also 46 Bayview Avenue. Thank you for reading the emails, numerous ones I sent, and many of you responded. A lot of the points that I had been making have been made tonight, but I want to reiterate a lot of them. A lot of comments were made that we're trying to limit the access to Higgins Beach. That is not the case whatsoever. I've been coming to Higgins Beach for 40 years myself. Utilized the parking lot. My sister and mother live up at the Higgins Creek. I've walked from there for many, many years. I've rented for many, many years. I was fortunate enough to purchase my property about 1.5 years ago. The intent of the parking lot being purchased by the town was a great idea. It ensures access for everybody to use the beach. I'm in favor of people coming to Higgins Beach. It makes it much more enjoyable for everybody. I don't think we are trying to limit it, but I don't think the right thing to do is to add unnecessary parking on Bayview Avenue that is going to cause a lot of heartache, safety concerns, etc. I don't know if you're familiar with the way some of the houses are on Bayview. Mine's a small cottage. I don't have a backyard whatsoever. That's my backyard. I can touch the fence. So my front yard is what I enjoy. I'd be having parking there, noise, day and night. 5 a.m. to 2 a.m., that's just not going to work for anybody out at the beach. My bedroom overlooks that. Many of the other residences, as Angelo just stated, so my other neighbors right across the street, they have small children that want to go to bed. It'll be very disruptive. Along the lines of safety, firsthand I witnessed the young lady whose grandmother fell. She was on the beach. She got hurt on the beach. It did take a lot of effort for the large vehicles to get down there. My mother, who lives at 5 Higgins Creek, is in a wheelchair. She's the furthest point after turning into off of 177 you can be coming into Higgins Beach. Number 5 is the last one down, and she comes down in a wheelchair. A lot of times during the summer, with people trying to drop off and do stuff, cars would actually put their tires up on the raised sidewalk. She couldn't even get by. Major safety concerns with that. I won't go on with a lot of the other points. You've read them. A lot of people have made them. I do want to just add one thing. My next-door neighbor, Ted and Linda Hall, 44 Bayview Avenue, they had expressed a lot of the same concerns and sent you some emails. But they gave me an excerpt that I'd like to put out, that back in the 70s, there was a parking issue on Bayview Ave that got so out of control that beachgoers, non-residents, tried to turn over a police cruiser. Finally, an officer named George Nickerson pulled out a shotgun and fired it into the air. Living there, I don't want to get shot. I like the beach. There was also a near riot because of parking on Bayview Ave. The Scarborough Police called in the riot gear and had Cape Elizabeth and State Police call in to help. I mean, there are issues and concerns that have to be addressed. We haven't tried to take away any access to the beach. It's a beautiful beach. It is a small beach, as somebody pointed out. I don't know if you guys have ever been down there during high tide. Yeah, a lot of people, including myself many times, sit up on the rocks, up on the sidewalk, and wait patiently for the tide to go back out. Out of time? Okay, well, thank you, and I really urge you to take a lot of those considerations.
Okay, we've usually allot 30 minutes to that first general comment, and we've gone 45 at this point. There's plenty of opportunity, because the whole night's yours, guys. So if we could proceed with the minutes of the December 15th regular meeting.
Move approval. Second.
Any errors, corrections, or omissions? Hearing none, all in favor? Thank you. Any adjustments to the agenda that anyone would like to make?
Can I ask a question?
Certainly.
I think it might be extremely beneficial if the manager could, again, do a quick presentation about exactly what we're looking at down there. 'Cause there seems to still be a lot of confusion around that.
We can do that prior to the public.
Prior to the public meeting, please.
Thanks for the warning.
Yeah.
Items to be signed, treasurer's warrants, I have signed them. Now, as I said, I'm going to have the town clerk read both orders for public hearing, and I will open it to public hearing, and then there's no confusion. You can talk on, about the Acorn Lane, or, you know, the Spurwink, or Bayview, at that point. And again, it's 3 minutes. I'll put my finger up when you're getting close to the 3 minutes. If we can adhere to that, that helps everybody get an opportunity to speak. If somebody has something more to say, if there's another speaker that would like to yield their 3 minutes, they can say so at the mic, and that, you know, we can go from there. So, again, keep your comments succinct and to the point, and we'll go from there.
Order number 10-103 is a 7 p.m. public hearing on the proposed amendments to Chapter 601, the Town of Scarborough Traffic Ordinance, Section 29, Parking Restrictions, Subsection 2, Higgins Beach, from April 1st to October 1st of each year, subsection C and D. Order number 10-104 is a 7 p.m. public hearing on the proposed amendments to Chapter 601, the Town of Scarborough Traffic Ordinance, Section 29, Parking Restrictions, Part 2, Higgins Beach, from April 1st to October 1st of each year, subsection A.
And at the request,
Thank
since you don't have to vote on it, we'll get you to do the work.
Well, I'll do my best to muddle through and try to describe what has become a fairly complicated set of amendments. At the outset, I'll admit firsthand that the amendments are not artfully worded. A lot of that has to do with us trying to work within the existing framework of the traffic ordinance, and perhaps in hindsight, and the council may wish to actually clarify some of this language, to clarify some of the points that have been raised from the podium this evening. And in fact, we've asked the town attorney to provide some advice in that respect. But I'll do my best to give a fairly high-level overview of the proposal as it sits now between first and second reading. Before I forget, I should say we focused almost entirely, at least the public comment, on the parking on Bayview. There are two other components before council. They involve restriction of parking on Spurwink Avenue from Wildwood Lane all the way to Pleasant Hill Road. There are spots along Spurwink that are currently restricted, but this would restrict parking on either side of Spurwink Road from Wildwood all the way to Pleasant Hill. In addition, it considers whatever is decided for the majority of Higgins Beach neighborhood proper for Acorn Lane to be treated the same way. So that's a bit of an open issue, but that's an important feature that's part of this proposal. So now let me try to walk you through the major elements of the proposal as it sits now. As this graphic indicates, the concept is really to introduce some designated on-street parking. Now that parking comes currently is in two different ways. The first, depicted in blue, would be for 1 hour time-limited spaces. That time limit does have a seasonal component. That time limit would go away off-season, if you will, from, forgive me, I'm looking at the...
October to April.
From October to April, essentially. And then it does also, the other part of this proposal is to pick up approximately 13 spaces, again, designated line spaces that would have no restrictions year-round. And I guess the final component would be establishment of approximately a 90-foot drop-off zone that would be cross-hatched and signed accordingly. And at this point, the proposal is for that to remain year-round as a designated drop-off location. Point raised at the podium, I don't believe it's the intent of restricting drop-off elsewhere within the neighborhood. That was not the intent. It's really to establish a designated drop-off for the general public to use, and I believe this location was chosen, as was suggested. All the traffic makes its way down Ocean Avenue and is forced, well, the majority does take the left onto Bayview, and that will be the first spot they see, and the intent is for that to be the most convenient area for the drop-off to occur. I guess some of the other issues associated with this on-street parking, there would be no other parking allowed on any parts of Bayview, anytime. And I think that's an important feature that may not have been raised earlier. And year-round. Year-round. So and I don't want to speak for counselors, I'll let them speak for themselves, but I believe that was a real important part of this proposal is the compromise, if you will, is to designate certain spaces, but the give back is that there's some regularity and there's not haphazard parking throughout the course of the year. And I guess the third piece, or the final piece, I'll just comment, the seasonal restrictions would apply to the rest of the streets. That's the current proposal. So forgive me if I've been a bit jumbled in my presentation, and I'm pleased to respond to questions of council.
I think the other thing that's important, the white line that's on the inland side of Bayview is intended at this point in time to be designated pedestrian area. Eventually, hopefully, you know, if things work, to be sidewalk. And that's where pedestrians should be walking, not in the middle of the street. So that leaves that area for the pedestrian to walk on that other side. So that was also a key element of it.
Yes, the designated and established sidewalk ends, and it was constructed as part of the seawall project. It ends approximately at Pearl Street. As Chairperson Roy mentions, this area is currently designated between 3 and 4 foot wide by painted method, if you will, as a pedestrian area. And at this point, there's no proposal to make it otherwise, although I think staff would clearly recommend that the council do consider establishing permanent sidewalks at these two locations, that being with curb and conventional sidewalk.
And I think the other point is the other no change is certainly no parking on any of the other streets during April to October. As it currently exists, there was no intent to change that. And during the October to April, as it currently stands, there would be allowed parking, but it does not usually occur. Basically, when you look at the width of the road and snow on one side, it can't happen. It shouldn't happen. But that, you know, needs to be seen and has been.
Are there any other questions from council before you open the public hearing? Please.
It isn't really a question, but a point, I think there's some confusion about the 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. That is a rule at every street in town unless specifically noted otherwise. So every street in town, the one period of time that nobody can park on it is from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. And I believe that was instituted, I was told, for street sweeping and other activities that might occur. They wanted cars completely off. Of course, we have snow bans, snow parking bans as well that eliminate parking from any streets in town. But all streets have that 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. parking ban.
That's a very good point. That restriction appears as in the definition section of the traffic ordinance. It's certainly possible for the council to create a different time standard for these streets or others in town, but that may well have been something that slipped through, and I think a point that I know a number of councilors taken close note of.
And that's really just the default time.
It is, yes. Any other questions from council?
I might have
Does that help, Claire?
one just off question, if somebody would know off the top of their head, and I'm not putting anyone on the spot, but once upon a time, there was some parking down at Bayview. Anybody have any idea how many spots used to be there?
I don't think it was ever marked.
There was never any designated parking. There was haphazard parking, and that's what's been happening, haphazard parking, but no designated spaces. And I think that's the difference between the proposal is designated line spaces, which lends some order, hopefully, to that.
Anecdotally only, and certainly folks here have lived with it and will correct me if I'm wrong, so by all means, correct me when you come and speak in public comment. But as I understand it, historically, and I can't tell you how long ago, but there was, as Councilor Roy said, not designated spaces, but there was on-street parking off-season, essentially from Houghton Street to Pearl, that has since gone away, really with the construction of the seawall. Off-season, of course. Okay?
Thank you.
That is my understanding. I'm not an authority on the factor, but yes. I will not hazard a guess. I'll let you speculate. I will let you speculate. Honestly, I'd like to do the analysis. I'm not prepared to answer that.
Perhaps some of the speakers, as they get up, can answer that. This is not meant to be a question-answer debate.
No.
No. It was for the
Council can
council
ask
to ask
questions.
question for clarification, for your benefit. Okay. Council, okay? Those things clarified? All right. So we will open the public hearing to address both items 10-103 and 10-104. Again, still 3 minutes. Again, please hold the mic and try to stay within your 3-minute time frame. Make things run smoothly.
Good evening. My name is Maureen Burns, and I'm a Higgins Beach property owner, and I've been there for 10 years, and I live there year-round now. I live at 6 Morning Street, and I spoke at the last meeting on December 1st, so I'll be very brief. I'd like to repeat, I am in full support of the council changing the I repeat, off-season, because I think there's a lot of confusion and intermingling off-season and summer season. On-street parking to be the same as the rest of the town's beaches. And I would really like that to be addressed by the council. In fact, I'd like to know why Higgins regulations are different by being 6 weeks shorter. Where did that come from? The summer isn't any longer at Higgins. There's usually a mass exodus at the 3rd week in August. Everybody's going back to school. They all have to get their kids back. And then basically the masses return at the end of June. So I'd like to know what that discrepancy is. I think easy, free access to the beach allows people of all groups to participate in healthy, fun, free activities. I feel this should be encouraged, especially given the population's decline in physical fitness. And I still believe common signage and realistic patrolling will save the town money. I appreciate being allowed to speak in this public forum with all the views being considered. Thank you for all your time that you've put into this polarizing issue.
Thank you, Maureen.
Good evening. My name is Vin Bombaci, and I'm a Bayview Avenue property owner and a property owner at Higgins Beach for 50 years. Unfortunately, at this time, it seems that the majority of the council members have suggested year-round it seems that the majority of council members support year-round parking in Bayview and do not support the Higgins Beach community, which opposes summer parking on Bayview. Last summer, with the assistance of our bicycle cop, we had an uneventful and safe beachfront from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. We had drop-off space, but without summer parking. It was ideal for visitors, vacationers, and residents. What you are about to do is reverse a successful no parking ordinance. I wouldn't call this progress. You're hoping that visitors and families will use the new parking lot spots in Bayview. But as long as there is a place to park, legally or not, surfers will use it when there is no police presence. To remind surfers of their obligations to the public, the following should be included in the parking ordinance. No surfer disrobing allowed in public. All violators subject to a $50 fine. Signs should be posted along Bayview Avenue. Since Scarborough only has 4 police officers at one time to patrol the entire town, the idea to use webcam to help with the surveillance would be an ideal thing to consider. With this system, office personnel, not police, could monitor the entire activities at Bayview and issue tickets. These systems would have zoom capabilities that can capture the license plates and take still photos that can be enclosed with the fines to the vehicle owners. These systems can be purchased for under $1,000, but it would be money well spent. The ordinance signs would include a warning that webcams are monitoring all activities. Hopefully this makes surfers think twice about urinating, disrobing on the streets and lawns of Higgins Beach, and start using the town parking lot and bath facilities that have been provided. It's been suggested that the residents of Higgins Beach should assume the role of law enforcement. The idea of a citizen approaching a law-breaking surfer to gather the personal data required would, without doubt, subject that individual to potentially verbal abuse, if not more. These webcams would also give the town council an opportunity to view first on-site activities real-time at Higgins Beach. I urge you to consider this proposal. Thank you very much for your time.
Hi, my name is John Reedy at 7 Acorn Lane. I'm here to ask you to consider including Acorn Lane with the rest of the Higgins Beach parking ordinance. Early one morning last summer, as I rode my bicycle to the beach, and on my return found 3 cars parking on Acorn Lane, and the drivers of those cars getting into a 4th car. I remarked that there was ample room at the beach lot, and they told me that they were renting at Higgins Beach and had company coming and needed space in their yard for the company to park. No need to pay to park in the lot when Acorn Lane was free. All we ask is to be treated equally as all other beach neighborhoods are concerning traffic and parking. On another issue, I've listened to comments about access to the beach, and I don't see where access to the beach is an issue. But if people do think it's an issue, I think the young lady who made the comment about a shuttle would be something to look into. I myself, just briefly looking online, there are many, many grants out there for alternative energy vehicles that the town could run from a larger parking lot. If the town feels that they need to put more access to the beach, I think that's an alternative without putting more vehicles into an already crowded area. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Reedy. Reedy. Okay, thanks. Okay.
My name is Alan Arakalian. I own the property at 55 Bayview Ave. And because of my ownership of property in Maine, I am entitled to certain rights. And one of those rights is the right of quiet enjoyment. The parking on Bayview Ave poses a nuisance to me where it is visual clutter and visual pollution. And my rights are violated by such instances. A nuisance is a common law tort. It means that which causes offense, annoyance, trouble, or injury. The parking on Bayview Ave will be covered by all of those statutes in violations. Higgins Beach is a pedestrian and biking community. Anybody that lives in the area knows that when you get to your property, you don't use your car to go to the beach. People as far as the outmost streets walk to the beach. They walk their families to the beach. You're going to create an attractive nuisance when you have this parking on Bayview, because cars are going to be looking to get the free parking that's on Bayview. They're not going to want to pay at the parking lot. So they're going to circle the neighborhoods and circle the neighborhoods. They may drop their family off at the drop-off zone, but they're still going to circle the neighborhoods hoping to get one of those spots. It's going to increase the danger to the children there that go to the beach and everybody else. You have the solution at your hand. You now own the parking lot. Now, if it's a case where some people don't want to pay for parking, you can accomplish that. You can make free parking from 6 a.m. to, say, 11 a.m. That's the surface hours. Usually there's plenty of space in that parking lot. There always is. I've never hardly ever seen it full. It always has vacancies. And in doing that, you say to the surface or the dog walkers that would be limited till 9 o'clock, that if you're not out on the dot by 11 or 11 in that range, give them time to walk up to get their car, that they'd be charged for the full time they were in the parking lot. And that would open up those spots for the regular beachgoers to come in and use the parking area. There's no need to have parking on Bayview Ave because there's plenty of parking space. Now, I've come down and I heard the gentleman from Acorn mention about the people parking on Acorn Drive. I agree with him. I've gone by there and I've seen the beachgoers walking from Acorn towards the beach. And you go by the parking lot at the beach and there's vacancies. The attendants there reading a book, and there's plenty of vacancies in there. The access to the beach is there. That's not the issue. The issue is the parking and people wanting to pay for the parking. That's where you're going to have the problem. I don't think that it's right to take away the rights of the other people in Higgins Beach by allowing this traffic congestion and everything else that goes along with it. And I urge you to keep no parking on Bayview in the Higgins Beach area, and maybe you should include Acorn also. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Lucia Jones, and I'm a resident of 14 Acorn Lane. I've been there for 13 years, and I wanted to talk about the good things that have happened in recent years, but also some of the big changes that have impacted me personally and living on Acorn Lane in the last 3 to 4 summers, and things have changed significantly. I want to talk about buying the parking lot and making improvements and making investments into that parking lot, having a changing area, restrooms, and so forth. I think will overall be a huge improvement to that area, and I really appreciate the consideration that that's being given. I would like to address basically 3 things: Acorn Lane parking, Bayview parking in the summer, as well as the Spurwink. For us on Acorn Lane, we have been trying to work with the general public the last 3 or 4 summers, trying to work with Chief Moulton by having no parking signs on our street. And what happens is that the general public does not want to comply. I opened up a Sunday paper only to find out that the summer guide was listing Acorn Lane as the free parking, which was a complete shock to me. And I have to say that I'm not a person to, deny people access, but over the years, it's really become very disturbing on how the public reacts. I have no leg to stand on if someone is parked blocking my mailbox, if they're on my lawn. People are leaving trash, and I don't want to be offensive, but people are leaving condoms, they're leaving cigarettes, they're leaving Gatorade bottles, diapers, soda cans, urine in these Gatorade bottles. It's just, you have received the pictures from I'm sure you received them, and the general public may not know what we are faced with. We have become the free parking lot, and by having this proposal the way it's stated, I think will work. Because that parking lot at the beach is empty or not full, yet our street will have 30 to 40 cars, and it impacts us. And frankly, it's embarrassing to see this type of activity happening, and we don't have a leg to stand on. My only recourse is to call the police which I don't really want to do, but it's my only recourse because this is just going to continue and continue and continue. And his response is, well, here's the no parking signs. And even if you walk down Acorn Lane right now, you'll notice in the woods are signs that are thrown into the woods, people just, littering, left and right. And we have nothing nothing that will protect us. So we're relying on the town council to take action and pass this ordinance the way it's stated by having no parking during the summer months and be reasonable and in line with everybody else, just like Pine Point, just like Spurwink. And we've also noticed this summer, people were parking by Piper Shores. Because if Acorn Lane was full and we had a lot of great beach days, people were parking along Spurwink as well. And I just think it poses another safety hazard. At the last open comment meeting, Chief Moulton was asked, were there any issues or data to support, any type of safety issues? And no one got killed, no one got assaulted, but, there were a lot of phone calls from Acorn Lane residents, and there could have been accidents. So I'm very concerned about what's happening. I do not support the summer parking that's outlined. I think it's just too busy, and I think it would cause more problems. I do support handicap parking for those that need it. I believe that the off-season time limit is needed in some fashion because obviously the residents of Higgins Beach have experienced problems. So I really do hope that you listen fully to the residents about what has happened over the years. And I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Great, thanks.
Good evening. My name is John Agazarian, and I'm the property owner on 45 Bayview Avenue, which is on the corner of Bayview and Morning Street Extension. I've driven here from Hartford, Connecticut today in order to voice my opposition to the current parking plan. And I'm going to limit my comments to the direct impact that this plan will have on my property. The plan includes the no time limit spaces directly in front of my property, not across the street, but directly in front of my property. They are approximately 6 feet from the steps leading up to my house, and I've included a picture to show that there's no exaggeration. 6 feet from the steps leading up to my house, less than 15 feet from the windows of my 3 children's bedroom who are under the ages of 10 years old. I ask each council member to consider if they would want people parked outside the bedroom windows of their children until 2 a.m. One of these spaces is immediately next to my driveway entrance. When drivers do not, and they will, when they do not pull in far enough, they will block the end of my driveway. Noise is a huge concern. Cars starting, engines idling, car doors slamming, car radios from 6 a.m. to 2 a.m., again, all in less than 15 feet from the bedroom of small children. The idea of strangers parking and loitering just feet away from my front door and my children's bedroom is terrifying. The proximity of these spaces to my property will, not may, will result in damage, trespassing, and litter. It is a guarantee. Emergency vehicles will have limited access to my house, or at least the front of my house, my front entrance, if these spaces are occupied at the time when they are needed. In conclusion, I'm a hardworking family man with 3 small children. I'm not an elitist who wants to deny anybody access to the beach. But the parking proposal puts my family's safety and well-being at risk. It will also damage and devalue a beloved property that has been in my family for over 35 years. I'll ask you please to not approve this plan as it currently exists. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Barbara Bombaci, and I'm a Bayview Avenue resident. This will be short since I'm recovering from laryngitis, but since I've been under the weather, I've had a lot of time to think about the effects of your proposed summer parking on Bayview. Tonight it was confirmed, and I didn't understand it was, but I've heard it said that people will be able to park legally on the ocean side of Bayview until 2 a.m., which is the town limit for the entire town. Now, many, if not most folks, don't have air conditioning at the beach. And that means that we open our windows at night to cool off the house. Now that it will be legal to park on Bayview in the summer, more young people than ever will be out late at night with their friends, laughing, screaming, slamming doors, turning up the volume on the car radio, and so on. Now, I don't grudge young people having a good time, just not under my window at night. With guests, children, grandchildren, all of us along Bayview Avenue will be trying to sleep with the windows open, unsuccessfully. You think it's not a big deal? Believe me, it is. Now, that's one negative effect. Another effect is not only negative but dangerous, and a lot of people have brought this up tonight. And that's the frequency of cars angling to get in or to get out of a parking spot. There'll be less room for walkers, even though you've shown the designated side of the street for them to walk on. When that gets crowded with bikers and walkers and kids and all manner of people trying to get along, when that gets crowded, they'll move to the middle of the street. And when they're in the middle of the street, especially the kids, they'll have to navigate between the active traffic and those attempting to leave, those attempting to park, and those who are just circling. If it sounds confusing, it should. It's a bad plan. And I urge you to reconsider summer parking. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara.
Hi, my name is Terry Kane. I live year-round on Gunstock Road. My family and I are also property owners at 18 Ocean Avenue and have been since the mid-'70s. We're among the majority of property owners who welcome the use of Higgins Beach by Scarborough residents. My kids who go to the Scarborough school system, a lot of the time, we get phone calls all the time from people all over Scarborough, can we use your front yard to park in? And that was mentioned earlier tonight, too. When we do that, we welcome it. I think it's not a matter of denying access. There's nothing anybody on or off the beach has talked about that really denies access. It's about how you balance that access. And there's a lot of issues that we could talk about. The one thing I want to really address, it's been addressed by at least 20 people here, as something that's really outside of this issue of balancing all the interests, and that's the idea of on-street parking in Bayview in the summertime. When I first saw that diagram, it was several meetings ago when the discussion was, here's how we're going to set this up in the off-season. And at the last council meeting, as part of what I thought was a pretty well thought out compromise plan that was presented at the end to make an attempt to wrap all this up, the one additional thing that hadn't been talked about before at all, and now was on the table, is taking that same plan and putting it into the summer months. And I watched it at home and I was shocked. I thought, who would put parking out here in the summer months? And then I thought, okay, let's have an intelligent thought on it. The way that is set up, you've got about a couple of 3,000 people on some days at Higgins Beach in the summertime. You have a couple of dozen in the wintertime. So all the thought that went into this, I believe, was around how we would do it in the off-season. If you take the same plan into the summer, then you have an opportunity for chaos and a lot of danger. It's been mentioned many times, but I'll just address one part of it. The blue lines are the hourly spaces that we expect to turn over during the course of the day. They are directly in front of the organized congestion of a drop-off area. And as you turn those over every hour, maybe 7 times a day, each space turns over. So 140 times somebody's doing something, either getting into the parking space or getting out of the parking space. On top of that, and people have mentioned before about kids running out between cars, consider this. The one thing that we're asking those people to do is parallel park. And they have to go forward and then back in. And the single most incompetent thing that most of us as drivers do is parallel park. So we're adding to all the other stuff that's been said, and I think it's close to enough. The concept of parallel parking, you'll have people pulling up, as people said, to hover around and vulture the spots when they have the opportunity, right in front of the drop-off zone where people are going to try to exit. In the wintertime, I think this is a pretty good plan. I don't think there's any danger, anything. But in the summertime, to take the same thing, you're going to have a traffic jam there that's going to be cause things way worse than a 3-minute delay that made life pretty difficult for Mrs. Lee one day. So what I want to suggest, and I think wraps up what a lot of people have said. I can support most of the pieces of the compromise proposal. I'm sure there's other discussion to go back and forth on that. But I would like to see the first amendment that gets suggested and passed when you do amendments is to just drop the summer parking plan from the compromise proposal for all the reasons everyone has said here tonight. And once we drop that, then you can make what other amendments are needed and vote for that compromise proposal. And I think you'll have done a very good job of doing best by most people and doing the best balance that you could do to this plan. Thanks very much for the effort you guys have put in. This has been a long show for many months, and you guys have put up with a lot, and we really appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Kane.
Dan Kelleher, Stone Road. I'm opposed to the Bayview parking, and I'd like to give my time to Melissa.
I'm Melissa Criffio, 31 Morning Street. I'm going to specifically address the off-season parking on the side streets. In March of 2009, this matter came before the Ordinance Committee. At that meeting, the one thing that everyone, including the Scarborough Police, agreed on was that Higgins Beach parking needs to be treated as an entire parking system. It was noted that when parking was squeezed in one area, it pops up in another. For example, when the cost to park in the lot went up to $10, parking popped up on Acorn Lane. And when the sidewalk went in on the west end of Bayview, parking shifted towards the east end. In fact, it was the council's understanding of the systemic nature of the Higgins Beach parking situation that led the council to include an Acorn Lane representative as part of the ad hoc committee. With that in mind, I am concerned with the council's current proposal for off-season parking. It would appear from council comments during the meetings that councilors recognize that on some days, when surf is medium or better, or the weather mild, the situation on Bayview becomes very chaotic. I believe that the council's proposal to restrict parking in the off-season to the ocean side only is an attempt to bring some order to that situation. In fact, I heard some councilors say that Bayview was chaotic because there were no designated spaces, that once a parking plan was laid out and enforced, there would be more order. With the current proposal, the council has, in effect, squeezed the off-season parking on Bayview. Now we must consider where the parking will pop. We know that there are days when demand for parking will exceed the number of cars that can be safely parked on Bayview. Since the council did not designate the side streets as no parking, on days when the designated Bayview spaces fill up, cars will just turn up the side streets. Let's take Morning Street, for example. Morning Street is 16.5 feet wide. Let's assume a 10-foot width for a parking space, since that's what the council has proposed on Bayview. That leaves a 6.5-foot travel lane on Morning Street. Fire trucks are about 8 feet wide. It's simply not possible to ensure access for safety vehicles on these narrow side streets if other vehicles are parked. I had a chimney fire at my house a few years ago. The Scarborough Fire Department was quick and professional in their response. While I waited with my family outside on the winter night, I saw cars try to come up Morning Street, figure out that they were unable to get past the emergency vehicles, and turn around and go the other way. That is not the scenario I am concerned about. What if the cars had been parked there first and it was the fire truck that could not get to my house? As you ask yourself this question, keep in mind that Higgins Beach is one of the most densely developed neighborhoods in Scarborough. We have 9 houses per acre. About a quarter of those are the original, unimproved wooden structures that were built at the turn of the last century. It is important that emergency vehicles have clear access to any neighborhood. At Higgins Beach, the density of housing, the kinds of structures, and the sea breeze that is present more often than not underscore that point. My chimney liner worked, our fire department was quick and thorough, and while I saw flames shooting from my chimney, I did not see errant sparks or embers flying out to catch the breeze and find a place to roost. But I know if any of those elements had not been in place, I could be telling a very different story today. I have some pictures here that illustrate the situation that concerns me. In these pictures, the larger vehicle on the left was pulled over about 2 feet from the road, and the second vehicle could barely squeeze by. If winter snowbanks had been on the road, The larger truck would not have been able to pull over as far, and the second truck would have been unable to pass. I encourage you to support no parking on the side streets year-round. This is consistent with the 1980 and 98 plans, as well as the current recommendations of the Ad Hoc Parking Committee. It is the same position supported by the 268 owners who signed the property owner's petition. It is not an attempt to restrict anyone's access to the beach. It is a solution that makes full use of the $1 million parking lot to provide the access and keeps the narrow side streets passable for emergency vehicles. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa.
Jack Kelly, 19 Oceanwood Drive, Scarborough, quote, Higgins Beach. I have a question as why the 1998 council appointed the Higgins Beach Management Committee, which I believe met 16 times, plus subcommittees. Councilor Borduas attended every meeting, plus some of the subcommittee meetings. Services of Officer Joachim Antonio, Attorney Vanny Otis, Traffic Engineer Bill Bray, Town Planner Joan Zipanowski, Town Manager Carl Betterly, as well as a survey group were all made available to us. Several public meetings were conducted, an extensive report submitted and accepted, and the town paid a substantial bill. Why now that a few self-centered surfers want to turn our residential neighborhood into their playpen? Do we want to toss all this aside? One of the recommendations we made was a town parking lot to serve the public and eliminate the tendency for on-street parking. After a dozen years, we have one. Why can't we see how it works? There was no problem for the past 10 years for people willing to walk a block and a half from the parking lot. Why now? The public has a prescriptive easement to use the beach. The surfers have no such easement to use the streets for a parking lot, public restroom, and a bathhouse. They can use the facilities at the parking lot. Allowing any on-street parking is not a compromise. It's giving in to an extremely vocal minority that will lobby for more spaces next year, or the year after, or the year after that, until they can park anywhere they please. We don't pay 10% of Scarborough's residential taxes to have to put up with that. They have rights to the parking lot and the beach. Keep them there. Thank you.
I would remind folks to speak to the issue, not to individuals.
Hi, I'm Ben Keller of 5 Sandy Point Lane here in Scarborough. I wanted to express my thanks to the council for their hard work through this process. It's an emotionally charged issue on all sides, so all the thought and work that you guys have done to this point has been hugely appreciated. Off season. So I set up a time-lapse camera that took one picture every 10 minutes starting on December 6, 2010 and ending on January 3rd, 2011. I did this because I'm not at the beach every day and I was interested to see for myself. I brought you all copies. Please watch it. It's interesting stuff. There's 3 versions on there. You can either examine it closely or zip through it in 1 minute. The shot is from Bayview near the ramp down to almost the end of where the proposed spots are in the amendment. I got 1 copy, including one for Mr. Hall. This was a good month to do it as well because it was a good core sample month because it had some beautiful weekends and a bunch of days that surfers would consider good swell days. But as you'll see on the DVD, as they say, the eye in the sky doesn't lie. In the entire time the camera was rolling, there wasn't one single parking issue, the exception being New Year's Day, which I will address in a moment. If you combine this video with Chief Moulton's statements from the last meeting where he said there was no data indicating there is a safety issue, this is indisputable proof that there is no safety issue due to parking in the off season. Now, I will volunteer my services to keep the camera running for the next year if we think that's going to help when this comes up for review again. I would also ask that the council please try to avoid falling into what I call the new American malady of just because something hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it won't. The one exception in this video is New Year's Day, where people were parking all over the place because of the polar dip, which I did not attend. However, eyewitnesses indicate that even though parking was willy-nilly, including parking up on the sidewalk at the seawall, there was no police presence, leaving one to wonder if parking is indeed the issue or if it is the activity that the parkers are involved in that is the issue. I'm in support of the amendments put forth in the last meeting. Parking on-street in season would make up for potential spots that will be lost in the restructure of the new lot. However, off-season, the space restrictions and time restrictions of the drop-off zone are unnecessary, will cause more issues, and enforcement of time constraints in any section, including any drop-off zone, will be very difficult to enforce at all. I'm well aware that this amendment, as it stands, will probably not be the one that gets passed, but I ask you to please consider the facts, the data, not the ifs and mays, but the facts and the data, and the opinions of the majority of the public, the Scarborough public and beyond, and leave off-season parking as it is now. There are no safety issues because of parking in the off-seasons at Higgins Beach. Please leave off-season parking as it is currently.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Jeff Jones, 14 Acorn Lane, and I'm just going to address the proposal regarding Acorn Lane tonight, to be brief, and that's a proposal that Acorn Lane be consistent with the parking restrictions on Higgins Beach. Again, this is a proposal that came out of the ad hoc committee unanimously. It was a 7-0 vote, and for the 20 years of Acorn Lane's been there, for 20 years there was never a parking problem. Now, we basically are the free parking spaces for Higgins Beach. 50 cars on both sides on any good day. And, you know, as a result of that, we as you've heard tonight, we experience the trash, the damage to the lawns. You can't mow your lawn when there's cars parked on it. Some of the nudity issues, safety issues of basically playing chicken to get up and down your street, problems with mail delivery, trash pickup, and the like. And this problem really was caused 3 years ago when the town banned parking on 77. And as a result, they put parking signs all the way up pretty much to Piper Shores and all the way down past our street. That really just drove everybody to Acorn Lane. That, in conjunction with the publicity in the Portland Press Herald and the going up on the fee of $10 at the private lot. And there's no doubt, as one speaker said, that the reason they park on Acorn Lane is because it's free. We'll have 25 cars on our street one day, and the lot will be half full. So it's the $10 that basically nobody would walk a half a mile to the beach with all their equipment and coolers, but they do just to save basically $10. And so we're just asking it's one of fairness and equality to us. We just want to be treated like all the other streets around the beaches in Scarborough. There's about 50 streets in Scarborough around the beaches which have parking restrictions. And there's a reason for that, because the use and the burden on those spaces is greater than just an occasional party or an occasional something going on in your street. It's heavy use, and it involves trash and a lot of different things. So we just don't think it's fair that Acorn Lane has to be burdened by the beach parking when the other Scarborough streets around the beaches don't share the same burden. We just want to be treated the same as all the other streets at Higgins, Ferry, Pine Point, and the like that are around the beaches that experience this problem. So I just want to thank you for your time and appreciate all that you guys looking into this issue and hopefully come up with a good solution for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. I have two letters that, upon request, that I read into the minutes. The first one is from David and Kathy Stahelski, I guess that's how it's pronounced. He says, there is controversy and trouble at Higgins Beach, and much of the good work of this town council, the Higgins Beach Association, and the public land trust is at risk. We need your assistance and support to vote no for the proposal for unlimited parking or 1-hour parking on Bayview on Higgins Beach. I have a home at 18 Houghton Street at Higgins Beach. We have closely followed the news stories, and as a homeowner have a good idea of the nature of the concern. In short, not 6 months ago, a parking lot was purchased for the cost of $1.4 million. If this council gives any consideration to the proposal for on-street parking, that lot and the accepted parking plan at the time that it was in support of the purchase is rejected and negated. That original plan called for a lot to be built and expanded at a later date if necessary. Any consideration in favor of free unlimited on-street parking at the beach rejects the council's position and promise. Parking on Bayview Street is strongly rejected by the residents. Approximately 270 homeowners and year-round residents signed a petition. Any consideration for additional parking outside the Vassal lot is in direct disregard to safety concerns, congestion concerns, environmental concerns, resident taxpayer desires, the appointed work-study group, and virtually all the good solid rationale which was utilized to come together to create the success of a purchase of the Vassal property in the first place. What happened to the notion of lessening the congestion on all the area roads through parking in a lot at the access point of a neighborhood, of requiring people to park in one well-regulated, safe parking lot, of allowing the children to run around in the open and not out between parallel parked cars, or keeping the gas and oil runoff from the cars far away from the beach, or creating bathroom facilities which are sanitary and proper, not to mention the accepted original plan to begin with one size lot on the Vassal property and consider expansion of the parking lot if necessary after utilizing it for a season or two. I believe all of this good rationale and more went into the association, the town, and the public trust assisting in the purchase. With the current consideration by the council for unlimited on-street parking, it makes a mockery of that rationale. Importantly, it creates an untenable rift between the resident taxpayers and the elected officials and a deep distrust of the intentions of the administration, management, town council. When young people's safety and taxpayers' goodwill are at risk, why rush to change any accepted plan before it is completed? What good will be accomplished when the first young person comes from the beach, runs out between a parked car and is hurt? Please vote no and put this issue to bed for years until the new lot is opened and operating at its best. The second one is from Mary Ann Cassidy from Vesper Street. She talks about having a conversation on the phone with somebody that I don't know was the person she was supposed to call. So, but she asked some questions. Why is this meeting taking place in the off-season when a lot of the taxpayers at Higgins Beach cannot attend? Number two, if the town owns a parking lot, why is it necessary to have parking on the streets? The woman who answered asked, what about people who can't afford to pay for parking? If you can afford a couple of $100 surfboard or even own a car, you can pay for parking. 3, why do you want to change the neighborhood? We all pay high taxes to be at Higgins Beach. People parking till 2 a.m. in any season is ridiculous. Number 4, the woman on the phone also mentioned because of the new seawall and sidewalk, they lost a few parking spots. That's totally wrong. There were never any parking spaces in that area of Bayview. 5, do you realize how much more traffic that will bring into the small neighborhood? 6, there have been more break-ins this year at the beach. Well, if you can allow parking until 2 a.m., what do you think is going to happen? I wish I could have been at the meeting, but I am caring for an elderly person who has a doctor's appointment. I hope you'll leave Higgins Beach alone. Enough already. Sincerely. Enough already. Thank you. Peter.
Good evening, Council. Peter Slavinsky, 3 Ironclad Road in Scarborough. I'm a proponent of going back to the original proposal by the Ordinance Committee to have parking consistent at Higgins Beach with all other beach communities in Scarborough. However,
Parking dates.
yes, I do want to commend the council on the proposed amendments that have been put forward. I feel they do strike a balance between the greater public needs for public access and the concerns of property owners at Higgins Beach. Creates a drop-off zone that will help vehicular turnaround. It will create designated, non-haphazard parking in the off-season along Bayview and actually eliminates existing parking spots on the one side of Bayview for safety concerns. And it preserves all off-season on-street parking in Higgins Beach consistent with hours now, April 1st to October 1st. The purchase of the parking lot preserves in-season access. If that parking lot was never purchased and was developed for residential structures, all in-season access to the beach would go away. And then finally, with the proposed year-round spots, or the in-season spots along Bayview, that preserves a number of in-season spots that may potentially be lost if the parking lot is redeveloped and 30 to 40 parking spots are lost. Enforcement of those spots may be an issue. And
I
maybe
can't hear you,
meters-
Peter. Can you pick the mic up and use it?
Maybe meters or some kind of ticket system where you print out a ticket and put it in your car can help with that. Potentially, maybe even the rates could be higher to force cars over to the parking lot in the in-season. And finally, there's been concern about timing restrictions along those spots. Potentially, maybe those spots could have timing restrictions at night so that all parking at night is forced over to the lot. Thank you.
Thank you. He spoke at the general.
Hi, Angelo Sioka, 12 Vesper. And after listening to everything tonight, I'm still totally against the in-season parking, but that's not why I came back up to the podium. It seems as if dollars and cents is a major issue for many of the people for not wanting to park in the parking lot. So I just thought of something that I would just like to pass along, that if every legal seat in a vehicle is full, has a body in it, let's put it that way, the parking might just be free. So that would probably take some cars, out of the picture for that day or for the season. So if it's a five-passenger vehicle that goes into the parking lot, you waive the fee for that day. That might help alleviate some of the parking situations.
How many people can you fit in a Volkswagen?
Thank you, David Kane, 8 Newcomb Bridge. I won't give my speech because everybody's given it. I'd just like to make a few points about the summer parking proposal, and I am urged that we drop the amendment that would permit any street parking in the summertime at Higgins Beach. There is no history of street parking in the summertime at Higgins Beach. There is no history of beachfront parking on the street at any other beaches in town for safety reasons or for whatever reasons. In the 1998 management study that went into a lot more detail on Higgins Beach than this discussion, the proposal was for no street parking at Higgins Beach. The ad hoc committee created by this council to look at these many issues on summertime beachfront parking supported no beach parking, I believe unanimously. So on this issue, I think for safety reasons, and I think it hasn't been pointed out tonight, but at least these orange parking spots right now are a pedestrian walking zone. If you eliminate those with parking, those pedestrians are sharing the street with summer traffic. I think that has not been analyzed, looked at. I don't think the liability issues that have been considered. So I'm in the group urging that beachfront street parking in the summertime would be a bad mistake. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kane.
My name is Alan Bingham. I live at 9 Acorn Lane. And I'd like to submit 2 documents to the council for consideration. One is a letter that I wrote to the town back in April when this was discussed previously, and the other is a map showing the streets in the vicinity of Higgins Beach with the parking regulations that apply to those streets. And I'll just read some excerpts from the letter that I wrote back in April. Along with a number of my neighbors, we attended the recent ordinance committee meeting. We did not come away feeling that the town will correct the problem, a problem that the town created. The problem. Acorn Lane has become the summer overflow parking lot for Higgins Beach. This has resulted in parking on our lawns, public nudity, confrontation with parkers, danger to health, and impeding the access to emergency vehicles. How the town created it. The town prohibits parking on all streets during the summer at Higgins Beach and during the entire year on Ocean Avenue and much of Spurwink Road. Despite requests, the town has failed to extend this same parking restriction to nearby Acorn Lane. Perception is reality, and the perception of the Acorn Lane residents is that there is a problem, and you've heard from several tonight. The town's actions have created a nuisance that infringes on the quiet enjoyment of what was a quiet, pleasant neighborhood. What is the logic of allowing Acorn Lane to be the overflow parking lot while there is no such provision at other Scarborough beaches? At the recent meeting, the town appeared to accept that those wishing to use the other beaches would have to go elsewhere. Everywhere elsewhere seem to include Acorn Lane. What is the logic of prohibiting parking on Ocean Avenue, which appears to be wider than Acorn Lane? What is the logic of prohibiting parking on nearby sections of Spurwink Road, which appears to be wider than Acorn Lane? At the recent ordinance meeting, the town expressed concern that if overflow parking was not allowed on Acorn Lane, then people wishing to use Higgins Beach would be turned away. The town cannot be all things to all people. We suggest that the logical response to this concern is, when Scarborough Beach and Pine Point parking lot is full, people are turned away. When the bus is full, no one else is allowed on the bus. When Baxter State Park is full, no one else is allowed in. When our national parks are full, no one else is allowed to drive in. We request that the town of Scarborough correct the problem that it has created by extending the same parking restrictions to Acorn Lane that it is placed on Spurwink Road and streets near Higgins Beach. In other words, the proposed amendments that I saw on the web appear to me to be logical in basically including Acorn Lane with whatever regulations for parking occur at Higgins Beach. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bingham.
I'd just like to respond to a few comments. One is about the history of parking at summertime at Higgins Beach. If you take a look at the picture of Higgins Beach in the back of this council room.
Can you give your name and address
Oh, I'm
again,
sorry,
please?
yes. Irwin Rupert and 15 Old Neck Road. Yes, there's a picture hanging in the back of the council room of Higgins Beach in the 1950s. It clearly shows a parking lot with 21 cars in it on the ocean side of Bayview. It looks like 1950s because some of the roads are still sand.
Pick that mic up too. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So there's one thing. There's evidence right there of parking on the ocean side, and that's what I support. I support parking on the ocean side and not next to homeowners' homes. I'm a homeowner here. I don't want the public parking in front of my house either. I'm like everybody else. But there's plenty of space there on the ocean side of Bayview where there aren't any homes, the way it is now, that you should let people park. Not in the summertime. In fact, I gave up on visiting Higgins Beach or Scarborough Beach in the summertime, a decade ago, because I can't afford it. I can't afford $8 a day at Scarborough Beach. I can't afford the $10. It used to be $5. It used to be after 5 o'clock, you could just park there for free. And the summertime after 5, you still have 3 or 4 hours, to enjoy the beach. But no, then as the parking lot, which you now say is a town parking lot, it's not a town parking lot. I believe the gentleman that was here today, he's going to be making that $10 off of the parking for what is it, the next 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? I thought you had some type of, I may be wrong. Well, 1 year? Is he going to be making the money next year? No. So all the money is going to be going to the town, and the town should do the same thing they do at the other parking lots. Do a fee system where residents can buy their annual pass. Residents, for $10 I can get my annual pass. For $20 I can get my annual pass. Put my decal on my car and park there whenever I want to. And don't charge me, the residents who are paying the property taxes, who are paying for everything here. Don't charge us to have to park there. We should have better access. And finally, on the off season, I'm all that's what I'm saying. On season, no, you can't have parking out there. I'm sorry, I'm totally into access to the ocean, but no, it's just too congested. The alternative, just like you say, it's the parking lot. We have to expand it and make it accessible to people, which means lower. The cost $10 a day is outrageous. I'm sorry, I thought you were of a different generation. Remember when a dollar used to mean something, $10 used to mean something too. And finally, just one last thing: 1 hour is not enough on the off season. 1 hour, if you're parked all the way down at the Bayview, it's going to take you 20 minutes just to get out to the beach. And if it's low tide, it's going to take you another 10 minutes just to get out to where the water's at. And if you walk all the way down the beach and back, and you have to worry about getting back to your car because, it's been an hour, it's not enough time. You at least need 2 hours. 2 hours at a minimum, and personally, I think it should, maybe even be more than that. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Rupert.
My name is Inez Rogachevsky. I live at 30.
Could you repeat that and speak up, please?
Inez Rogachevsky.
Well, that's good. I can spell that right away.
Yeah, you can spell however you want.
Thank you.
So I live at 35 Deek Street in South Portland. I have been a winter renter at Higgins Beach many winters, and I use Higgins Beach for a variety of activities all year. And the amendments that came out of the last council meeting are much more positive for off-season beachgoers than the proposal to ban street parking altogether during the off-season. However, the 5-minute drop-off zone doesn't seem necessary in the off-season. It also takes away more parking spots during the off-season, when off-season parking spots are already being cut. And it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to add additional and unnecessary enforcement burdens on the town to keep this a drop-off area during the off-season. So I would ask that you look at that and please amend the current amendments so that the drop-off area is for the necessary summer months only. And I believe that the same should apply for the 1-hour time limit during the off-season as well. If there is a time limit, 1 hour is too short for the off-season, but additionally, it adds an enforcement burden during the winter, and I just wonder if the town really needs to take that on. I would also ask, finally, that you also take this opportunity to make the off-season time frame September 15th to May 1st, as is the case at the other town beaches and was the original purpose or the original intent of the ad hoc committee. If there's going to be off-season parking, make it consistent with the other town beaches, the time frame. So I appreciate your work. Thanks for the consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Rotochowski. Did I get that? Okay. Are we set?
Okay.
Run.
Adam Simon, Cottage Lane, resident, Shipwreck, 2007 to 2010. I want to really commend the committee for its really hard look at all of these issues. It's understood the problems. that are-
You need to take the mic.
It's understood the problems that are being addressed in the.
Yeah, just use it. If you just pick it up and use it.
All right,
And
and
could you
this-
repeat your last name?
Adam Steinman.
Steinman, thank you.
You're welcome. I think the committee's done a really, really good job on a really, really tough issue. And it's come from one end to somewhere in the middle. I think some of the last proposal has really sort of helped move the issue. I still think there are problems, as is clear from the wide discrepancies from the people who've spoken today. It seems to me there should be a couple of definitional sort of step backs and let's look at it. There are a lot of people who I've heard express very, very, very real concerns regarding parking in the summertime. I think the council has to look at that. I think those are real concerns. Most of the passion has been about overflow or child safety or pedestrian safety in the summer, overflow on Acorn. I understand that. I think this council has to look at this. I'm not sure that in all of its hard deliberations it's had the opportunity to see everything. I also think getting tied in with that, though, is an off-season issue that may or may not exist. I'd like to see, someone said they took a video of, what's happened over the last month. I'd love to see that video because I really don't know. I have a knee-jerk feeling of how it is on the off-season versus on-season, and I think 1 hour parking in the summer is going to be problematic. It's going to be problematic from an enforcement standpoint. It's going to be problematic from a lot of, from a traffic standpoint. I think we really need to look at it. All of it, to me, begs for more study. I'm sure that's the last thing this council wants to hear. At the same time, there's been a lot of really passionate issues raised by both those for and against that I think need to be addressed. There was a lot of concern talked about on snow days. How are emergency vehicles going to get through? Well, the truth is on snow days there's a full parking ban. You can't park there on snow days. And to muddle that issue, I think, is important. there's been a lot of concern and angst expressed over the fact that people can be there at 2 in the morning. Well, I don't think that this is a parking change, and if it is a new change where you're expanding parking from midnight to 2 in the morning or whatever it is, I think that's something that the council has to look at, but I think it's muddling the issue. I think there are two big issues here. What's appropriate during the on-season? What's appropriate during the off-season? And I would contend, and I'd really like to see the video, that there are really not a whole lot of issues in the off-season, and there are a whole lot of very, very real issues on the on-season. There's been a lot of discussion about the new parking lot, and I totally commend this council and the taxpayers of Higgins Beach for helping to purchase that parking lot. There are a whole lot of other people who have helped purchase that parking lot, including state funds, including Scarborough residents as a whole funds, and all of those people should also be commended. But to think that we have a whole lot more parking spaces now that we have a parking lot is simply inaccurate. That parking lot people have been parking at for many, many years. I personally have been parking at it for at least 15 years. So this is not going to expand parking. We're not talking about expanding on-street parking in the off-season. We are talking about essentially reducing those. If the ordinance goes through as is now proposed, we are talking about less spaces for less time in the off-season, not more spaces and not expanded rights. And I think that has to be understood. I appreciate the fact that my time is up. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Adam.
Good evening. My name is Shirley Moody. I live at 22 Champion Street, and I'm a year-round resident of Higgins Beach. I'm not going to repeat everything that the folks before me have said. I do have strong opinions about the summer parking on Bayview. I do think there was a lot of issues there, and I would hate to see that go through. But what I did want to mention, the question came up before the public hearing about the lost parking spaces on Bayview, where the seawall is and the sidewalk is now. Prior to the sidewalk, that was a fire lane and has been for the 12 years that I've lived at Higgins Beach, and further back than that from what I understand. Parking there is a towable offense, but it wasn't enforced. Those were never legal parking spaces, at least not in the time that I've lived at Higgins Beach. Those are not lost legal parking spaces. So that kind of brings me back around to please be careful with what gets passed from an enforcement perspective. Right now, under the current ordinance, the only place that parking is not allowed at Higgins Beach right now is along that sidewalk. Saturday was a beautiful day. There were 15 cars at 3 o'clock in the afternoon parked on the sidewalk. And while I was trying to walk by, where there was no safe place for a pedestrian to walk by and a very constricted area for cars, several cars came and went from that area. I have to assume that that behavior went throughout the day. Who knows how many people thought it was okay to park on the sidewalk in the course of the day. Enforcement is an issue. Whatever is passed, if you make it too complicated, it's not going to be enforced. There's nobody there to enforce it. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Shirley.
Hi there, my name is Chris Taylor. I live at 5 Marcia Street. A couple things. I want to make sure that we're not, be very clear that this isn't a surfer issue, and I think that that's come up, that it's easy to make this issue about surfers, and I think that's just an easy target. I'm not a surfer. I'm a resident with 3 kids and enjoy the beach, and I know a lot of people that also feel the same way that are not surfers. One issue that someone commented on tonight about the fire chief that spoke the other a couple weeks ago, saying that as far as he can recall, there aren't really any safety issues that he knows of, so I don't know how much a true issue that is. I'm in support of most of these amendments and the things that have been put forth in terms of the drop-off, that we've moved to 1 hour instead of 30 minutes. I think that makes a little bit more sense if you want to walk your dog or run with your kids on the beach. The addition of the parking spots that are a little bit longer term parking seem like that's a helpful thing, and I do think the lot can be very helpful What remains to be seen is how much that's going to be, charged. I think it was a concern of mine at the last meeting. It still is there. I don't know what that's going to be. I think $10 is kind of steep. If I was wanting to run down the beaches and it cost me $10, that certainly would be an issue. I don't know if there'd be no charge during the off season. I don't know how that would work. So that's a big concern in terms of access. Before I moved to Scarborough, I lived in Willard Beach, and we had a parking lot that was free, and that was great in terms of access. So I hope that we can find a resolution to that in terms of payment. As we know, however many years ago, it went from $5 to $10 the very next year, and that was a bit of a shock, but that was a reality. I do think that is quite a barrier for folks to come to the beach. And I'd comment on this at the last meeting, that this is an issue just for Scarborough, it's an issue for the greater Portland area. A lot of people had written editorials about their support of more parking at Higgins. And I certainly think it's not crazy to actually be looking in that direction of expanding access. Just because something was the way it was in 1998 doesn't mean that it's what we should be doing, and I think we should be looking at further access. Last thing I really want to say is that I want to be careful that we don't go in the direction of some other communities. As many people are aware, Goose Rocks Beach had an issue this past, I think it was the last year, in terms of people, they want to just be able to take over the beach and basically keep the public out. That's a scary issue. There's a gentleman in Cape Elizabeth about, a year or two ago that didn't want people trudging on the private path to the ocean. So these issues aren't new to Maine. Some of them have been settled in very civil ways and I think public-friendly ways, and some of them have not been. I just hope that we go down as a town that opens our arms to the public in a safe way, in a responsible way, but in a way that says we have this gift of the beautiful ocean and that we're going to share it with people rather than restricting. I think even a $5 parking, these are tough times. That's going to keep a lot of people away. A lot of people like myself that don't have a lot of money, public parks, public lands are a way to enjoy things without being able to spend a fortune to go up to Sugarloaf or something like that. So $5 gets to be a barrier to that kind of access. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Chris.
Good evening. My name is Lorraine Talbot. I'm a property owner at 18 Acorn Lane. And speaking in front of a room full of people is right up there with like getting a root canal for me. So I'm going to be really brief because it's not one of my favorite things to do. First of all, I would like to ask for your support of inclusion of Acorn Lane and whatever the final parking ordinance changes are, for all the reasons that some of my neighbors and others tonight have spoken to. So, and I did send an email to all of you voicing that, so I won't go on further with that, but I do hope you will support that for the reasons you've heard. The other thing, in just being here tonight and listening to a lot of the comments, I was in the compromise position, trying to find a middle road as regards to the larger issue of parking at Higgins. I am a walker. I walk for exercise from my home to Higgins Beach and back several times a week. Not so much in the winter, but frequently in the summer, 3 to 4 times a week. And I must say it's enjoyable to be able to walk freely on the streets. Most of those streets do not have sidewalks, and I do have concerns in listening to some of the comments tonight by the residents there about what the increased parking down in front of the beach will pose in terms of safety. And so perhaps it might be better to give the new lot a chance. This will be the first season that the town will be running the lot. There may be some creative ways to do pricing. Some of the things have been mentioned tonight or by speakers earlier, doing no fees in the morning, maybe the town sticker for residents. So there could be a way to, I think, make that lot work to meet all the needs of all the people who want to use the beach. Thank you very much. And thanks for all your hard work. This has been a tough issue.
Thank you.
Evening, Bill Donovan, 8 Morning Street at Higgins Beach. I'll be brief, just a couple of things. The work of the ad hoc committee needs to be respected. I attended several
You
of
need to
their
pick up the
meetings.
mic, Mr. Donovan. They can't hear you.
I attended several of
Important for
their meetings, and they were very deliberative, very thoughtful, and the majority who presented the proposal for time-limited parking did so as a compromise. There was no counter-compromise. It was kind of a sad circumstance to sit there and see a group of 4 people seeking to find a way to resolve the needs of all concerned. The proposal that they put forward, which is essentially a time-limited compromise, really was intended to benefit everybody. If you look at it as the non-surfing public, the dog walkers, the beachgoers, they really are there in the off-season for a half hour, at most an hour. I see it out my window, so I know firsthand that they're gone in usually less than a half an hour. They deserve to have convenient access to the beach. Whenever we have a busy surf day, and when we did the data, just keeping track of cars and surfers, it demonstrated on 11 out of the 14 first days in November, the surfer count just dominated. It was huge. And so the non-surfing public had no convenient access to the beach. And that's really not fair. It's the way the rules are now, so it's not like somebody's trying to be mean to another person. It's the rules now. But they really need to be modified. And that's what the committee, the ad hoc committee, was attempting to do, to identify a way to give the and these are all Scarborough people. The 99% of the people who would park in these short-term parking are Scarborough people. They really have a right to be able to gain access to the beach. And by having 1 hour, and that's really what you've been suggesting as opposed to the half an hour, and I think that's a fair compromise. I would go along with that. What you were able to do for the surfing community is give them the facilities they need. Obviously, there's a lot of friction that's going on. When you can have somebody snapping pictures from their front window of all the abuses, you've got a problem. So, and the surfers don't intend to be a problem, but they are. They should be in the parking lot with facilities, changing facilities, showers, bathrooms, all the things that they need. And by doing those 2 steps, you really solve the neighborhood's problems. So that's really all. I'll close by saying attention should be paid to the pedestrian. This is a massive pedestrian setting there. Off-season and in-season. Walkers galore of all types. You need to have a sidewalk on the beach side. I talked with the town engineer. He wasn't consulted on this plan, but he did say 32 feet of pavement is 32 feet of pavement. You can put the sidewalk on the beach side, push the cars over 6 feet. And so I throw that out so that you would take that into account, because I think it would materially improve the safety if this was added to the plan. Thank you for your time, and appreciate your consideration.
Hiding around the door on me. I can't
Hi.
see if there's anybody in line.
Drew Guire from 26 Ocean Avenue, Higgins Beach. I've been listening to the ideas coming forth, and I think that I want to make one comment that I'd like to thank the ad hoc committee for their work. I don't see this working here. I like what the ad hoc committee came up with, their proposal. My recommendation is the lot. The answer to this is the lot. And perhaps maybe the town council should consider scraping that shack that's on the lot, maximizing parking spaces, and then selling passes, kind of like a hunting license. You may get a spot if you get there in time or not. The town can recoup some funds. And then I recommend that the council accept the ad hoc committee's recommendation. and then let it sit, let it lie for a year, and then see, what worked and what didn't, and then revisit it next year. That's my simple recommendation. I have thought of these permanent spots there, the full-time spots, and just let me pass. We talk about the kids running in between the cars. Let me just say this. As I'm cutting grass, I get guys, carload of teenagers circling the block asking me, hey, can I park on your lawn? And of course I say, no, just go in the lot. And they continually drive around Higgins Beach looking for spots. Okay, I get it. Now let me pass this to you. How many people, when they see a light turn yellow, and they're 50 yards away from it, are actually going to press on the brakes? So when somebody comes down Ocean Avenue and they make that left turn and they see a car, the nose of a vehicle pulling out on one of these long-term spots, how many people think that carload of teenagers are not going to gun it to get that spot before anyone else can get it before them? And my concern is a family of 4 coming down Pearl Street, trying to control 3 or 4 kids, that just happen to go right out in Bayview. I think this council will have a heavy weight on their shoulders if that were to occur. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Time for one more? I was nervous getting up here, but only because I'm a surfer. My name is Ivor Carlson. I'm a Higgins Beach property owner. I served on that ad hoc committee. Thanks for all the thanks everybody is giving us, although I voted against the proposal of that committee on a 4-3 vote. And I live at 64 Ocean Avenue full-time, and I've lived there for 10 years. 27 years ago, I started to commute to Higgins Beach as a winter surfer, a dog walker, and someone who just loved the ocean. And we spent 2-3 evenings or weekend days all winter long on the off on the off season. 10 years ago, we bought our home based on the ability to use that beach in the off season, and also because the beach was friendly. When we were there, people would come up and pat our dog, ask how the surf was, and just have idle chat. A year ago, almost a year ago, I attended a meeting where the council was presented with a proposal to adjust the times of the parking times at the beach to be in coordination with the other town beaches, and I thought that was a good proposal, and came and listened to the presentation, and nobody spoke against it. At the second reading, I was a little shocked. All of a sudden, there were pictures, there were comments, and it didn't feel very good. So I did get on the ad hoc committee and worked all summer on that with this group, and the proposal came forward. But I still couldn't understand where this large group was, because I wandered those beach streets all the time with my dog. So I took the petition that was put together and analyzed it. And I just have a few facts I want to share, and then I'll be quiet. There's 490 or so dwellings at Higgins Beach, in the vicinity of Higgins Beach, and I'm talking condos, cottages, apartments, and including the larger area, which is now part of this proposal. 270 people signed that petition, and I thought, well, that's good. That's a lot of people to sign a petition, all at Higgins Beach. As I analyzed that petition, realizing that every household had a minimum of 2 people signing it, at one point, one couple signed it 6 times because they owned more than one resident. In one house, 4 people signed it. I'm assuming it's a multiple ownership. So I thought they must be intending to look at the amount of homes that are being represented. There's 180 homes out of that 490 that are represented. Out of that 180, less than 50% live there year-round. Out of that 180, the 50% that live there year-round, there are 2 homes that signed the petition that can actually see from their home any activity on Bayview. I would say that everybody is right. The ad hoc committee did have a proposal. It just didn't come forward. There were 2 extreme proposals from that ad hoc committee. One was to eliminate parking year-round, every street. The second one was 100% parking on every street year-round. Total opposites. The best proposal in there probably is a compromise in the middle, which is the current proposal that we have. Year-round, off-season parking only.
Thank you, Ivor.
Thank you. This is Sue Foley Ferguson, 331 Black Point Road. For the record, the Town Council deliberations of extending the seasonal parking ban began way back in March 1999 of Higgins Beach Report. And since that time, no less than 17 recommendations have been adopted, and no less than 8 major changes have been made to improve traffic, pedestrian safety, and parking, including the following: 4-way stop sign at Ocean and Greenwood, 1-way streets, elimination of about 20 spots. That was the question that Councilor Holbrook asked. Not legal spots, not marked spots, but spots that were historically used, probably in the fire lane, true. The narrowing of Bayview, but lost spots. Sidewalks on the ocean, and the purchase of the parking lot and the parking ban in the summer. My point is this. The Scarborough Town Council has done an unbelievable and comprehensive job of addressing the issues of the Higgins Beach community, specifically as it pertains to parking and safety. And for anyone to complain that they haven't is wrong. I, for one, think that they deserve thanks and not all the complaints. On December 13th, I provided the Town Council with a timeline of actions that have been taken by this community. So if anybody wants to see it, it's on the record. And I challenge anyone to find a comparable area in town that has had so much focus as Higgins Beach in the last 10 years. And I'm not complaining about this. What I'm saying is that we need to give the council a lot of credit. Changes have been made. Parking spaces have been lost. They've purchased the lot. A lot of things have happened. But no matter how many times an issue surfaces, guess what? In 5 more years, you guys, this issue's coming right back to you. So no matter what you do, okay? So the very first step, you got to define to see if there's a problem. And so I'm going to separate my comments because, as you have heard tonight, there's not much of a problem off-season. And for you to consider any changes in off-season parking, I think would be a mistake. I have only heard one person, and that was Melissa, and I do agree that changing parking on Bayview is going to squeeze it to other streets. That's true. But there's no data from the police department or other departments that there's been safety concerns. Doesn't mean that there isn't a problem. That's the off-season. I also support the increased time limit to match other beaches. I don't think September 15th to May 1st is good enough. I think it ought to be June 1st to Labor Day myself. But in any case, keeping it with others, those are my winter things. Why take more spaces when you don't need it and there's no problem? But if you need to identify the space, is great. But I don't think you need the drop-offs. I am a drop-off person. In the winter, I park there. I do need more than an hour to walk my dog. I need about an hour and a half at least. Summer comments.
3 minutes. You're
Okay.
at 3 minutes.
All right, I'll summarize. My summer comments, you have heard, and I agree, that the summer parking situation continues to be a struggle. I'm not supportive, I'm not crazy about parking on Bayview at all in the summer. I do think you have to be very careful about your drop-offs. You need drop-offs in the summer, but you also don't want to back it up. Enforcement's going to be a problem with your 1-hour spots, and I think that you always have to consider enforcement. And I guess that's all. I can't believe that was 3 minutes. Thank you.
3.5. Thank you. Everybody all set? I will close the public hearing. I thank you all for your comments. I have taken notes all along. I have made more notes tonight. And we will have the second reading on it at the next meeting. You will again have an opportunity for general comment time, for comment prior to each of the orders being taken in action by the council. Certainly, the emails are there. I got 25 this week. Split down the middle, maybe. And so there's lots of time for more input to council for those people who couldn't be here tonight and at the next meeting. And it's not an easy situation, but we will all get through it.
Okay, there's no old business and there's no new business.
Okay. And No non-action items, huh? Yeah. If you could give us a few minutes, we're just gonna wrap the meeting up, and you might wanna know what we're doing with committees. So hang on for a moment. If I can just have quiet, though, while you're doing it. If you're gonna leave, please be quiet. Standing committee reports, any
Yep.
reports and
Yeah,
liaison
yeah,
reports?
Yes, yeah.
Could I have quiet, please? Thank you. Counselor Alquist.
I have two committee reports. The Finance Committee, we're going to get together. Counselor Wood, I believe, is out of the country and can't meet this week. And so the Finance Committee is going to meet next week some morning early, and we'll let you know. We can review the year-end financial report. That's the game plan, but I will let you know just as soon as Mike gets back. The second one is the Appointments Committee. We met tonight. We reviewed a bunch of names. We still have a lot of vacancies. We will post those vacancies that we have. We hope to do it through the local papers, weekly papers, or to do it onto the local cable site. But we have a lot of things that we need to go over. We had questions about some committee members and how many vacancies they are, and moving people up from an alternate to a full member. So we're going to meet the Tuesday before the next meeting,
It
which
should be
is,
the 18th.
Right, that's it.
that's when we're meeting, the 18th?
Yep.
We're going to meet Tuesday, the 18th, and it's going to be at 5:30. So you're more than welcome. Bring your supper, and we'll sit around, and we'll try to hash everything out. But there is a lot of things in flux right now. And one of the things we're going to do, I think, with the planning board and maybe a couple other committees, is ask people to come in when we have multiple names, have them come in and sit down and talk to the committee about their interest and find out who they are, because those are some of the really important committees. Like I said, again, we do have a lot of vacancies, and we hope that certainly some people here tonight will step forward and get on some of those. It would be helpful. Thank you.
Counselor Holbrook, any standing committees, liaison?
The Housing Alliance meets tomorrow evening at 6:30, and some of the Wentworth committees have started, the subcommittees have started to divvy up, although I don't have a pending meeting, I don't believe, but.
Yeah, we do.
Do we do it?
Yeah.
We do.
I think it's gonna be the 10th.
Is that the presentation, though?
Housing Alliance is January 6th. What time?
6:30.
6:30. Okay, thank you. Counselor Sullivan, any standing committee? No? Counselor DeAndrea?
The Conservation Committee meets next Monday, I believe, which is the 10th. And if they haven't already, Mr. Manager, they have their report for the annual, town annual report for you.
Excellent.
And should have that to you shortly.
Great.
What time is that Conservation Committee meeting?
I don't know.
7?
7 o'clock sounds good, sure.
Counselor Raincoat?
Yeah, I have two. Ordinance Committee, our next meeting will be Tuesday, January 25th at 4:30 here. And because I will be away on vacation in February, our February meeting will be on February 15th rather than the last Tuesday of the month. The remaining meetings for the year will be the last Tuesday of the month. And I wanted to report on the Wentworth School Committee as well. I'm on that with Jessica. And one of the things that with the last meeting we talked about, the committee did adopt a proposal to the school board of new construction for Wentworth and asked the question of the council, would we be interested in retaining some of the old building for community use? And that section would probably be the old gym, maybe the old office space, the old library, and the old home ec and shop area of the original building. That they will need to know from us if we have an interest in that, because that will affect how they raise the current building and what space they'll have available for playgrounds and other things in the planning stage. So is something we need to consider in the near future.
Any others? Energy Committee is having its meeting January 12th, which is next Wednesday at 7 PM, and we'll be reviewing the compilation of the Energy Committee's report to the council for action items relative to energy and energy efficiency in the community. And then the WOW January meeting will be January 20th at 8:15 in the morning. And then I would remind folks that the school board council meeting is at 6 PM, just prior to the next council meeting on the 19th. Okay. Town managers report.
Yes, thank you. 3 quick items at your places this evening. We do have the financial audits for the year ending June 30, 2010. I've provided also the towns as well as the school department's financial audits. Due to scheduling and the availability of the auditor, we're not able to get the auditor to make the presentation until February 16th. I think that still should be fine, well in advance of your budget deliberations, so I'll coordinate through the chair, but our intention would be to hold a session or a presentation with the auditor at 6 p.m. prior to your meeting of February 16. Certainly in the meantime, the Finance Committee may want to take this up in some detail as well. I wanted to just report, though many of you probably saw in the newspaper, one of the pending complaints with the PUC relating to the smart meter matter has actually been materialized into a case, an official case by the PUC. Interestingly enough, it's not the one involving public health issues. It was the more recent one involving the issue of opt-out and whether CMP could or should offer that as an option. So that, stay tuned. Many have viewed that as very good news. The PUC will take the matter up. I'm not aware that CMP will cease its operations in the meantime. I've not been made aware of that fact yet. And lastly, I just want to mention, the council's aware of it, but we did conduct a citizen satisfaction survey over the last 10 days or so. The period's closed now, and we had about 250 respondents. We invited 1,000 people or so to participate, so we had almost a 20% response rate. This was a randomly generated list of Scarborough residents, so we really wanted to make sure that we weren't stacking the deck. I have no idea what the results are, but we're certainly very interested. They'll be available in the next 3 weeks or so, and I'll certainly share that with the council, and perhaps we want to have a workshop and go through them in some level of detail, but they certainly will be available for our use through your budget process. So thank you.
Good. Council comments. Council DeAndrea.
Yes, thanks for talking about the CMP, or the PUC hearings. They actually did look at 2 complaints, but they haven't completely, they haven't dismissed the health concerns, but they haven't opened them either. So we're really unsure about how that's going to go. And I think at this point, part of the strategy is for people who are concerned about smart meters. Now would be the time to call CMP and ask to opt out. They are honoring opt-outs right now, and they will continue to honor those opt-outs until they are told otherwise by the PUC. And so it's very simple to do. People can easily go grab their bill, get their account number from their bill and the phone number at the top of the bill, and just call and say you'd like to opt out from the smart meter, and you might get put through to another department, and they may ask you why you want to opt out. You can simply say it's either health or safety or security or personal property rights. Whatever your reason is for wanting to opt out, you can opt out, and they will honor that. They'll send you a confirmation letter to say so. They've been very pleasant to people, and we'll be happy to help you. And just one more item, of course, as always, there are gun safety locks for free for town residents at the Scarborough Police Department, which is open 24 hours a day.
Councilor Rankin.
Yes, I just have one. I want to just sadly tell people that Betty Pennell passed away yesterday. And those of Old Town residents certainly knew Bet's place very well. And the visiting hours will be Monday night at Blaze and Hay Funeral Home in Westbrook, and the funeral will be Tuesday morning at 10 a.m.
Council Sullivan.
I also regretfully have to mention the passing of Dave Blanchard, and my regrets go out to his, and best wishes to his wife and family.
Council Hobart?
I actually had just written down a few facts that I wanted to bring in and share this evening.
Go ahead.
For council comments, so.
Go ahead.
Just some interesting stuff. I know there was a question earlier in the evening. Somebody asked about our other town beaches, about being any free parking. There, as far as I know there is in Pine Point, right on. There's a couple there on East Grand and a couple down over on Jones Creek. So there is a few. It's not much. It's a pittance amount of parking, but there is a little bit of free parking. The other interesting thing I wanted to point out is we have this really nice new system on our town website. You can access any GIS map for Scarborough, which is really nice and a very useful tool. And the other thing you can do on our town website is you can look through the assessor's office at any parcel in town. And then, like I said, these are very nice detailed maps if you ever had a question about where you can, when and where you can go somewhere. And a key interesting thought, just to leave you with, is I was surprised to learn after looking, I've been looking long and hard at Higgins Beach over the last few weeks. The largest oceanfront property owner in Higgins Beach is the state of Maine. That's it for me.
Council Alquist.
All set.
Okay. I would like to add condolences to that list with Betty and David Blanchard. For those who might not know, was a retired Gold Badge member of the volunteer fire department. A couple of other folks that have lived in Scarborough a long time. Arthur, but also known as Eddie Atkinson, from over in Maple Avenue, passed away a few weeks ago. And Gina Kluke, who works in the finance office, her mom passed away, Anna Johnson. And Debbie Rideout, who works in the school system, her mother, Edith Durrell, passed away. So we've had lots of deaths sent during the Christmas holidays, which... Again, I'd like to, I know most people have left, but again, thank the public for their continued input. I have endeavored to answer every email, and others have done the same. It's not going to be an easy topic for us. We've still got some time to do some thinking, and I, like Council Holbrook, have spent many hours milling things over and thinking about it. So hopefully in the end we will come up with a product that provides a quality of life for all involved. So with that, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.